What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today I'm going to be doing a little video on Poe Dameron in a response to some of the articles I've seen by Nerdist. Now, I'm going to talk about three articles. Two of them are by Nerdist, one by Den of Geek, but the Den of Geek article was referenced in one of the Nerdist videos. This has been some of the worst stuff. I mean, it's just insane, some of the stuff that's been talked about, and I've really stayed out of it a good bit. I did a video on Vice Admiral Holdo, but it was actually a canon conversation about how terribly she was written because there was a book out about her and her character was already shown to be a certain way, and it was done completely opposite. But now I'm wanting to do a video to defend Poe. I want to defend Poe because the article that got this whole thing started was done by Nerdist, who said that Poe was actually the villain of The Last Jedi. Absolutely insane comment. It's just absurd, but we will go through it. They referenced two other articles in it, and I'm going to start from the first article that was written. The first article that was written is called "The Failure to Hold Poe Accountable." And I'm going to kind of be looking at some notes just to be prepared. I usually don't look over notes as much, but because I'm going through these articles, I want to make sure that I don't, screw up by giving a straw man and not really kind of explaining exactly what they said. So I don't want to slip up and add a little word in and then someone say that my argument doesn't matter because of, one little slip up. So the first part of this article just shows the lack of understanding or knowledge of Star Wars to begin with. It talks about how it's defending Holdo, of course, and it says that Leia was the only female, nearly the only female in the original trilogy. Of course, this fails to kind of expand upon why they had to say nearly, because there was another one named Mon Mothma. Now, who I think she was actually the other leader. So there's always been led by women. The rebellion was led by women with Holdo, Leia, and Mon Mothma. This is just, so we're just starting off to a strong start. The next comment is the unforgettable hero of Rose Tico as a hero. The one that came up with the idea about the tracking thing and going to try to fix it with Finn. She came up with the idea, said it was there. Finn said, if we can get on there, I can get us there, and she can break it down. So this was her idea. The argument that Poe caused all these deaths because they blame all the transports on Poe because he was trying to help them out because Holdo hid all the secrets from him and wouldn't tell him what was going on. So the only thing he could do was go with Rose's idea, which led to, of course, the transports being destroyed, along with a lot of other issues. So yeah, real big hero. And then the other thing she did was when Finn was going to sacrifice himself to be able to save the rest of the Resistance, she takes him out and then gives a stupid speech about that's not how you be a hero, even though right before it, Holdo gave her life for the Resistance, so that's all right. And then Luke's going to the movie's a joke. It's just so terribly written. It contradicts itself constantly. But yeah, Rose, the hero, who instead of trying to worry about saving the entire Resistance, allowing Finn to sacrifice himself because he ran to the gun and prevents them from being able to knock the door down. Because at this point, they don't know if they're going to be able to escape out the back. That was just an ex machina thrown in the end by Ryan. She crashes into him to save him because she has a crush on him. So she's not trying to save the Resistance. She's trying to save the guy she likes. Big hero. My goodness, what a hero. I wish we could all be like her. Give me a break. Then they go to her sister Paige, who, yes, she was actually a hero. The irony is what Rose talks about, is this isn't what you do, is exactly what her sister did, sacrificing herself for the Resistance. So again, the contradictions are insane. But let's also be clear, one of the things they always complain about is Poe ignoring Leia when Leia said, turn around, come back, let's leave. And Poe kept going. Paige was in the bomber that also kept going. Everyone just ignores this. She's telling Poe to come back. Poe switches off the intercom so he doesn't have to hear her anymore. Is there no intercoms with the rest of the bombers? Or did they just continue to follow and ignored her advice as well? Because Poe is a leader and they follow him as a leader. We will get further into explaining why he is a leader and they will follow him no matter what. But let's just call what no one else is saying the truth, is that they all ignored her. This isn't all on Poe. Poe put himself out in the front lines, and he actually acted as a hero and a leader. I know this movie wants to make it like heroes are stupid, unless they're a woman. Rose is a hero. Holdo is a hero. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. They can contradict constantly, but when it's Poe, it's toxic masculinity. If you think I'm just kind of, putting that out there because I'm not comfortable with myself because somebody said that in the comments before, I'll get to the point that that's actually the title of an article. I'm not just projecting. That's what it was. I don't know all these stupid words they use. So, okay, let's get clear with that. Paige ignored what Leia said as well as Poe, so don't blame anything on Poe. She chose to sacrifice herself for her friends and her sister. Then it goes to, of course, Poe is toxic masculinity and that he bristles under the leadership of Holdo. Now it's probably because she's a woman, isn't it? It's got to be because he sees her and he can't listen to a woman because that toxic masculinity is just driving through him. No woman can do what a man can do. Except for his mother was a great fighter pilot and he loved her so much he always carries her wedding ring around his neck. So he was raised by a strong woman, and the person he looks up to most in life is Leia, who is also a strong woman. It's interesting. He's followed strong women his entire life. So either this is just a terribly written script, which it is, or maybe the women didn't raise him right, or maybe this isn't toxic masculinity. I think I'll kind of argue that it's not toxic masculinity. But let's continue. Next, they say that he's blamed for the transport. It's already argued that if you want to put it on him, you have to put it on Rose as well, and Finn, and Holdo. But we'll get to all of those. And then he said he failed to listen to women. If he just would have listened to women, everything would have worked out. We'll get through all of these. And then it says the movie fails to punish toxic masculinity. Now this is the premise of the article, is that he fails. He's toxic masculinity defined. He destroys everyone. He screws up every plan, but at the end of the day, he's listed as the leader. He gets to lead the resistance, and this is wrong. And then it goes to say that all men, this is what women are used to, is men just fail upwards. That they keep screwing up, but they get leadership after leadership after leadership. President of Lucasfilm's a female, and 3 of the people on the story team is all female. And yeah, it's just, men get everything handed to them, and women, they do everything perfectly, and they never get anything out of it. I mean, this is if you want to argue that, have something to back it up. This movie is not something to back it up with. She's the Vice Admiral. Everyone above him is a female. Like, what are you talking about? Failing upwards. It's a joke. He's demoted in the movie. Like, it's insanity. It's utter insanity. And then talk about projecting. This is clearly the girl projecting, just, all men fail and then continue to do better, but I've done everything perfectly. I'm not going to argue on people like that anymore. Then she says that he needs to be in the brig, and I believe possibly even shot. I know she said the brig. I'm going to post all the articles down below. Go ahead and read them, so you don't think I'm using a straw man argument and making them, trying to make them look bad. I'm not. I did pick out parts, but the articles will be down below. The next one is by Den of Geek, and this is a toxic masculinity one. Now, it starts out by explaining that this movie is a movie about competent women and competent women and emotionally challenged men. We are all men, and we don't know how to deal with our masculinity, and we struggle to let out our emotions, and this just causes us to hurt people and screw up everything, and it's just terrible. And all these perfectly competent women, except for Rose, who screwed up basically everything. And then we have Holdo, who was a horrible leader, and we'll again get to those. Then it refers to Poe as a hothead. He said it was like a good-looking hothead or something like that in The Force Awakens, which was just mind-blowing. I repeat, he said this in The Force Awakens because the next paragraph jumps to talking about him in The Last Jedi. So Force Awakens, he's referred to as a hothead. Let's just kind of go through The Force Awakens. We meet him. He's listed as Leia's most trusted pilot. Then we see him. He's talking about how much he respects Leia. He's given the information to find Luke because he's the most trusted pilot. And so she sends him on the most important trips. These are key because these will all come into play later. Why everyone in the Resistance looks to him. And why if Holdo is a good leader, she would use the fact that everyone trusts him and believes in him as a leader to get them to gather around him or gather around her because he agrees with her plan, which he did. The second Leia told him Holdo's plan, he agreed with it and was like, oh wow, that's great. Man, that's that hothead for you. My goodness. He was just angry old woman came up with it. Give me a frickin' break. So he gets the information and he's about to leave, and that's when the attack happens. When the attack happens, he gets captured. And then he's tortured. And he gives up no information. And then Finn helps break him out. And he flies away. But he goes back to Jakku to go and get the information in a droid to make sure to finish the mission. Even though Finn says you're going to die, and they're shot down because of it. All he cares about is always following the mission and doing what's best for the Resistance. Every single decision he makes. Every single. He is a perfect soldier and a absolute hero. None of this is hothead. He's back and forth fun jokes with Finn while they're in the thing, while they're flying. And then later on we see him, and the first time he sees him, we see him and he comes back, he does the rescue on Tokadana. He's wooing, he's excited, he's kind of laughing and joking around as he's flying around. He's got a nice back and forth with the other fighter pilots. And then when they get back to base on Dakar, BB-8 runs up and he says, oh buddy, yeah, and then gives him this, it's basically a guy playing with his puppy in the park, which most women are like, oh my god, that's the sweetest thing ever, he would be a great father and all this stuff. But yeah, no, he's toxic masculinity, and this is a hothead. And then Finn runs up and he's like, oh, buddy, yeah, what's up, man? And he's like, oh, that's my jacket. No, man, you keep it or whatever. I'm telling you, the hot-headedness of this guy is insane. It's crazy. It's embarrassing, actually. As a man myself, it's embarrassing how hot-headed he is. I mean, he's basically just hit everyone he's seen. Then he goes and immediately takes Finn to Leia, the leader, that he takes to her. He doesn't make up a plan and say, let's go do something ourselves. Let's do hot-headed, trigger-happy things. Nope, takes him to Leia. They develop a plan. He then leads his team to go to attack Starkiller Base, which he blows up. And then he flies back. And then that's where we get to The Last Jedi. Is this a hot-headed person? Like, let's just be clear. These articles are absurd. They have there's no truth. There's no basis. These guys, it's just, I guess they're just trying to reach a certain type of fan that wants to hear it and make themselves feel better. But like, here's my argument. If you want to prove some of these things, make them legitimate. These are just terrible arguments. Next, it says that Johnson wrote this because Han was the prototypical, what is it called? I can't remember what they said. A heteronatural, I believe, heteronatural masculine man. And Ryan wanted to go against that and show how that's bad. And so he kind of played on the tropes of a hero and leadership and most importantly, masculinity, and prove that it's bad. So of course that's what Johnson tries throughout the whole thing, which is why Luke's a coward and a pathetic loser. Finn needs Rose to show him around, and Poe is toxically masculine. In this article, it's down below, they go through all the other characters and show how Hux is this way, Snoke's this way, basically Kylo's struggles because of the toxic masculinity around him. He's trying to live up to stuff, and that's what causes him to just be so angry and turn to the dark side, because we cause this. We cause it all. And then it says that Poe needs to stop his mansplaining and listen to the female leaders. I don't know exactly where his mansplaining was. Of course, mansplaining is just an argument for anyone that doesn't want to have to prove their argument against somebody. Like, they're all going to say this is mansplaining. I might as well call the title of the video Mansplaining Poe. I'm sure someone's going to comment it down below. Probably someone's going to do it ironically, but I have a feeling someone's probably going to do it legitimately, actually think that that's the truth. It's absolutely absurd. Then they say that Holdo, they talk about the quote from Leia, that Holdo cared about protecting the light. She didn't want to be a hero. Of course, if she wanted to protect the light, she would have done a lot of things differently, but we'll get to that. And then they discuss they're tired of the narrative of the alpha male hero, and it's so nice to have a good female hero. Well, write a good female character, because Holdo was terribly written. There's a lot of great female heroes. You can go to The Bride with Kill Bill. You can go through, Game of Thrones with Daenerys. You can go back in the day with Ridley from Aliens. You can go Leia from the original trilogy. I mean, there's a lot of options here. Furiosa from the last Mad Max. Like, just write it well. Like, you didn't write it well. And why is the typical thing an alpha male hero or whatever? Like, I don't know. Let's just look at history here. 90% is a safe bet of the amount of people that went to war being men. So, it's like the argument that someone had about Dunkirk movie, and they're like, it's just showing nothing but men. Of course it was. That was who was there. Like, look, stop complaining. You have Leia, you have the other woman that I don't even know her name, that was the one that had to introduce Holdo. You had Mon Mothma before it. You've got Rey as a Jedi. Stop with this. Stop complaining. Stop trying to force more crap in here. And stop trying to make the guys that are actually heroes look worse for no reason, because it's just terrible screenwriting. It doesn't fit the characters. It doesn't make any sense. And you have to work around and create so many absurd little convoluted screenwriting concepts and plots to be able to make it kind of work, that it just screws up the entire movie. None of it makes sense at all. So then she says he's a skilled X-Wing pilot, but sometimes that's only good for sometimes. But Poe thinks it's always that's the thing all the time. They fail to forget that his X-Wing blows up in the first 30 minutes of the film. The rest of the film with him and Holdo, he's not trying to fly around an X-Wing. He's not trying to solve the issues with an X-Wing. Let's also get clear that when Leia demoted him, for no reason, but did she demote everyone else? Oh, they were dead. Okay. Did she, when she demoted him, she said, you got to get your head out of the cockpit. You can't just hop in an X-Wing and blow up everything. And then immediately after that, the First Order shows up. And he goes, permission to hop in an X-Wing and blow everything up? She goes, permission granted. You have no problem setting him up in front of what's that thing called? The Filminatrix, I believe, was the name of the Mantador 4. You got no problem putting Poe by himself in an X-Wing to deal with a dreadnought that is a planet destroyer and a fleet destroyer, as Poe called it, by himself, to make sure everyone can get off the base by him distracting him. The most dangerous thing we've seen. You got no problem sending him to do that. And he's willing to do that to protect the people that he cares about. And then because he wants to finish the job, which if he didn't finish the job, let's just be clear, the movie's over with, because they hop out and then they blow it up, all the ships up with that ship the next time. If he doesn't destroy that ship, so that's the thing, Ryan wants to use him to accomplish the concepts he needs to keep his stupid, terrible idea of a story continue, but then wants to blame him for it. No one wants to admit that actually what happened was he did the right thing. That what he did was necessary for everyone to survive, both before he blew it up so that they could get away, and later so that they continued to get away. But to the point still that all these he was trying to do it was Leia's plan. Leia agreed with the plan to begin with. She also agreed to send the bombers out before and then wanted to bring them back. She backtracked her own plan. Finn continued the plan. But he's not wanting to fly in an X-Wing the rest of the movie when he's dealing with Holdo. He's just wanting to know what the idea is. What's the plan? Okay, you're the leader. He's coming to the leader and saying, what's the plan? I'm a soldier. Give me orders. Yeah, that's terrible. My God, that's toxic masculinity. This is horrible. Throw him in the brig. Shoot him. He's treasonous. He's villainous. Those words will come up a little bit later. And then it goes on to say, many men in The Last Jedi struggle with toxic masculinity because they fail to deal with their emotions. Now for what got the title of the video most likely is the Nerdist article, The Real Villain of The Last Jedi. Now it says he has the most blood on his hand as a character, which is true. Actually, it's very true now, but they've kind of got it flipped. See, they're trying to argue the transports, which I already argued you can place on Rose and Finn. Mostly Rose. Rose is the one that started the idea. She's the first one to come up with the idea to begin with. Finn represents it and brings it forward to Poe, and she's kind of like, let the man take the idea and pretend it's his. Watch the movie. That's how it goes. And then Poe goes, okay, let's, what can we do? And that's when they call Maz Kanata. So it was her idea just as much. And then we'll get to Holdo holding the secret for no reason because she's a bad leader. And also because Rian Johnson's a terrible writer and he needed to create drama because he had a terrible idea for a script in which he was going to have two ships slowly follow each other as the B plot, the B storyline going on. And that was incredibly boring. So what did he do? He created some fake drama by a stupid writing trope of hiding information from someone. This is terrible, lazy writing is all it is. And he places it on Poe because then he gets to prove toxic masculinity and show that Han Solo was actually a bad guy. Let's show that that's not a good thing. So let's go through the most kills. We're ignoring the transports. I've already shown that. Even if you want to put that, was like 2-3 transports blown up. So few hundred people. That could be blamed on more people. And Poe's original idea was that wasn't sort of like they're not protected. They're not. And even if you want to say, he said it. And he told Rose and Finn, Rose and Finn were the ones that had the bad idea of trusting someone that they met in a jail, that they know nothing about, that they know stole the ship that they're even flying. And he strictly has no trust. Like, he's already said, like, he's talked negatively about the Resistance. Why are you trusting this guy? You don't sit there and say, oh, okay, well, I'm getting information from the other person in the Resistance. Let's make sure that no one else hears it. Is that Poe's fault? No, it's Rose and Finn's fault. Yet again. But, so, okay, now let's go to the bombing thing, because that's what everyone talks about. Oh, the bombers, that's why I got demoted. Looked it up. You can look it up yourself as well. In the incredible cross section of The Last Jedi that explains all the ships, I counted 8 bombers in The Last Jedi. There's 5 people. 5 people. That's 40. 40. Now, the dreadnought that he blew up, that if he did not blow up, jumps in hyperspace to the next location and destroys everyone. And then also, if he didn't go and defend it, and distract everyone, no one would have been able to get off the base. And if no one got off the base, again, the movie ends. Because he's the hero. He's the one that will sacrifice himself for the greater good every single time. How many people are on that dreadnought? Let me see. Who's got the most blood on their hands? 215,000. Yeah, 215,000 First Order people he killed. Now you could say, Paige did it, but who set up everything? Who put themselves in the largest harm? Dealing with that. Then once being on the ship, dealing with all the ties that were attacking that he dealt with all by himself, and then all of a sudden when the other people show up, they're all blown up very easily. See, again, Ryan just wanted some visual things to make you think, oh, this movie's great because look at the blowing up. Oh, it looks so good on the big screen. Again, Ryan wants to use and abuse them and then say that they're bad people. It's absurd and it's terrible. So 215,000 to 40. That's pretty good odds. And if he didn't do it, what else could that ship do? I mean, how many people died in A New Hope for Luke to be able to blow up the Death Star? Is Luke to blame? Is Luke a terrible... Is he the villain of A New Hope? I mean, he brought them the plans to the Death Star. He was one of the fighter pilots out. Luke is the villain of A New Hope if you go with this kind of... If you run this concept out. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Then they call him, as I said before, selfish, treasonous, villainous. Again, we will begin. I'm just covering their articles and then I will have a defense. It seems like I've been defending it. I haven't even really begun defending it yet. And then it says he doesn't take time to learn the lessons. He just jumps to undermining after he's demoted. Again, watch the movie. Right after he's demoted, the First Order jumps out of hyperspace. He's told by Leia as he's demoted, get your head out of your cockpit, that you can't always solve everything by jumping in an X-Wing and blowing stuff up. He's demoted. The First Order shows up. He's ready to go get in the front lines and defend all of his friends and fellow soldiers. And he says, permission to jump in an X-Wing and blow things up. Leia says, permission granted. That hothead, he didn't go, oh, I'm demoted, I can't go fly, I'm just going to sneak out and go jump in an X-Wing. Let me go sneak out and tell everybody to go do... No, he went and got permission, and permission was granted. See, again, you love to use him when he's needed because he's great at what he does and he's a great soldier. But then you want to blame him for everything else. You can't have it both ways. You just can't. I mean, I know these articles want to have it both ways, but it just doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, he didn't take time because he was immediately told to go back and be the soldier that he was. And then later, when Holdo shows up, he walks up and he asks her, what's the plan? He's a soldier. He's asking his leader, what's the plan? Man, that's terrible. That's toxic. Good Lord. Of course, she mocks him and degrades him. But he's the toxic one. It says Rose and Finn being sent on the transports are on him. I've already gone through all of this. And again, if you want to talk about the transports or whatever, Rose, while she's being that hero that was mentioned 2 articles ago, she's got to save horses. The Resistance is running out of time. They're on limited fuel. They literally could run out of fuel and die. But Rose says, let's take a little ride around the park on horses. Let's make sure to free them and then take a little break to say, man, it's worth it now. We did something good. All your friends and family, everyone's going to die. But we saved some horses, and I know they're not called horses, but they're going to be called horses because this movie's terrible. It doesn't deserve for me to call them by their actual name. I do know them 5 years, just so no one's like, you don't even know the names. I do. So, yeah. Rose is such a hero as she rides around and talks about stupid political ideas she has. Then they call Poe chopstick Cheeto eating pilot. Now this is where you call high class journalism. This is just, as you should expect from an article like this, just top tier journalistic integrity. And then of course it says learn to trust women. Again, that's a rhyming thing. Of course, everyone trusts Leia. Again, everyone trusted Mon Mothma. This was never an issue before. Could it be that Holdo is just a terrible leader? Let's not even go into the argument of how we're trained as moviegoers to understand the language of film, and that we as viewers are Poe. We're the audience. So when you have Holdo talking down and mocking and degrading the character and hiding things from them, then that is how we feel. So we naturally aren't going to like Holdo either. So it's terrible writing if you want us to like this character. You can't just at the end say, oh, nope, she's a hero. See? Oh, as she's walking by, oh, Poe's like, oh, isn't he cute? I kind of like him, haha, which is degrading in itself anyways. You can't have it both ways, and that's what this whole movie's about, trying to have it both ways. Then, of course, because I'm sure they got clearly a lot of comments hating on them for this article, and so there was an edit at the bottom. And the edit said, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it said that Poe at his heart is a hero. And this one I love because this was clearly something they got and they were like, crap, we didn't even consider that. We look at Poe and he doesn't, and we don't pick that up. But it goes, we would hate to discourage the first Latino hero in Star Wars. Oh, crap. They didn't think, they skipped that one. They just wanted to hate on men and then they were screwed up and hated on a minority in the movie. Dang it. So close, Nerdist, you almost had it. And then it says, we of course realize that the First Order, white supremacists, fascists, and Nazis are much, much worse. And it's like, oh, let's go. That's the safe thing. Let's just say that everybody's fascist, Nazis, and white supremacists. Those are the bad guys. Because everybody can agree with that. It's such a straw man. I mean, gee, it's all this is. I mean, and that's why if you look at a lot of these videos, they turn off the comments and disable the dislike so that no one can argue against them because they can't hold up their argument. Now let's get to Poe as a character and show how he was butchered and how none of this makes sense. And the only things that make sense is why everyone followed him. So let's go through the comics. Now the comics of Poe, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the comics of Poe happened before The Force Awakens. So let's get to understand who Poe is and what everyone in the Resistance knows of him and how Leia's treated him beforehand. Now the first comic, it's when he begins to search for Lor San Tekka. Leia gives him the information and she says, you know why I'm giving you this information? He says, because I don't ask questions, I don't have to know everything. You just tell me the orders and I go do it. She goes, that's right. Is that hot-headed? Is that toxic? No. The female leader knows that she chose Poe because he's the best pilot and she doesn't have to give him all the information, that he'll just obey orders and go even though he doesn't know everything because he's told to, because he's a great soldier. It's just, so then when he goes, he's going to try to find him, and in this, I'll try to be quick because I don't want to go through all of the stuff, but he's going there, he finds these weird people that Lor San Tekka hung out with, and they got this egg and they worship the egg and they're trying to protect the egg. They won't tell where Lor San Tekka said because they don't trust Poe. And then the First Order shows up, and the First Order begins to try to destroy the egg and hurt the people. And because of this, Poe ends up turning himself in. He was hiding when the First Order showed up, and he turned himself in, and he basically gave up himself to be able to try to protect the people and the egg. Of course, this doesn't matter much for the First Order, but he continually sacrifices himself and tries to be political or whatever, and not come in guns a-blazing or do anything because it could affect the other people. This ultimately ends up leading to, they end up, of course, getting away, and the people end up telling Poe what happened with Lor San Tekka because they respected him for protecting them and their egg and not acting rashly. It's funny that all of that, see, it's opposite of how all of these people are talking of Poe. And also in that, his other squadrons flying above him, he was the only one to get down below. He tells them that they need to come up with an idea to slow down the First Order that's above. And Snap Wexley goes, great, not going to give us the plan yourself or whatever. And Lulo, which is another pilot in the team, says that he's actually a great leader because he trusts us and believes that we can come up with an idea on our own even better because we're up here. And he says, I've been with a lot of commanders throughout my time, and someone that trusts his team to come up with the idea themselves when he can't give the best idea, and instead of giving bad orders, trusts us. That's a great leader. So now we've got his team talking about him being a great leader. This is the guy. This is Poe Dameron. Then the confrontation goes on. In that, Lulo ends up firing first on the First Order. At this time, there's kind of a ceasefire. So no one's firing. because they don't want to provoke the sides. Lulo ends up firing and provokes kind of a battle. Poe confronts him about this. Lulo is someone that was basically helped raise him to an extent, was very close to his mother. But yet Poe confronts him and tells him how that's not how they should act. That he knows the rules and that you shouldn't fire off like that because those aren't the rules. Leia hired us and got us. We're the people that go and do the missions because she trusts that we can keep our cool and not act out. So she sends Poe because she trusts that he's not a hothead and he will make the right decisions and not fire and just get trigger happy as everyone's trying to say he is. And when someone else does it, he goes and confronts them. Even though it's an older person, he still wants to obey the orders and do what's right and not act out of rash, hot-headed, trigger-happy. Again, none of these... And this is Star Wars canon comic books of Poe Dameron. This isn't just like my head canon of what it is. Now, of course, none of these people did any of this because they don't research. They just write stuff, which is why they call people chopstick Cheeto eating pilots. So then he's sent on another crazy mission. As always, Poe's put on the front lines to do the hardest things possible, and he does it every single time. Every single time. Poe's always in the middle of it. And you can call him trigger happy because he's always the one in the middle of a fight. But the reason he's in the middle of the fight is because he's the most trusted one. And he's always the one that's willing to put himself on the line to protect everyone else. So then, the next one they go and have to go and break into one of the worst prisons ever. And there's a huge riot. And again, he's in the thick of things. And we jump to the next one. And he's sent by himself. C-3PO comes and says, Leia told me to only tell you that they found possible coordinates to Snoke and we need to go get it. He's the only one trusted to go do this. Again, this is so important. You'd think that the Resistance and all the other people around aren't seeing that Poe and Leia have this connection, that she's telling him stuff and he's being sent off and going to do these things. Every important mission, he's the one going. He's always the one that's the leader. So later, when in the movie you just say, you're not a leader, there was no leaders on this mission, that's a joke. It's just stupid. It's terrible writing and it's trying to force something down. It makes zero sense. You can say in the movie, you're not a leader, but everyone else in that ship sees him as a leader. And that's where Holdo failed. Even if you want to look down and argue and say that she didn't have to tell, a good leader would sit there and say, the person that everyone respects and looks up to, because I'm new here, the person everyone respects and looks up to is Poe. I'm going to make sure that he's got my back. Or I'm going to say what my plan is in front of him and everyone else. You don't hide it from that person. We'll continue on to that. So he goes on that trip, tries to get the information. As he's flying back to base, he realizes something's up, and he realizes that it's a trap. That there was this droid that had the information of Snoke, and the droid said he wouldn't tell until they got back to base. Poe begins to think this is weird, and he pulls out of hyperspace and sits there and waits so he can figure out what's happened. As this happens, the entire First Order shows up. So yet again, he ends up making the wise decision, not the hot-headed decision. He's calmly thinking everything out and realizes that this could be a bad thing. And so he stops and ends up getting himself shot down and crashed onto a planet because he's protecting everyone else. He doesn't want the First Order to know where the Resistance base is. He knows that the entire First Order is probably about to show up right behind him. But he's willing to sacrifice himself to protect the Resistance and everyone there. He's a hero and a great soldier. Now, when he's shot down, the First Order shows up, and the rest of his squadron shows up as well. BB-8 sent out the information, told them where they're at. So his squadron shows up, and the entire fleet from the First Order shows up. Poe walks out, and he says, turn on the holovids to Snap Wexley over above them, and says, film everything. If they do anything, send it to the New Republic. And then he says to the woman walking out, says, if y'all shoot anybody down, because they had already shot down one of the fighter pilots, if you shoot anybody else down, or you do anything, we'll send all the information to the New Republic, and they'll know what you're doing, and they will then begin to attack you. The First Order obviously doesn't want that because they're not prepared yet. And so she says, wow, I'm surprised that a fighter pilot like you is so political and so calm and collected to come up with such an idea. Again, this is not the Poe that these articles and Rian Johnson's trying to say. He is. Now, again, this is happening before The Force Awakens. This isn't the Poe that's before. So, just like a lot of people, and I've argued in a video, that this isn't the Luke, it doesn't make sense for his character. This isn't a wise, smart, bold move. It's just stupid writing. It's just someone that can't write a script using information from before. He's got to just create all this new things on his own because he doesn't care. It's not bold. It's not cool. It's not original. It's not smart. It's not artsy. It's just stupid. It's a bad writing. Really, really bad writing. So as I said, one of the people died. Now, one of the people that died was the guy Lulo that I mentioned before. Now, they're having the funeral for Lulo, and I'm actually going to read what Poe said. Now, tell me if this is someone that doesn't care as they portray it, that he doesn't even think about the people that died. He doesn't care. He's just a hothead. He's just ready to go. He doesn't consider the loss of life when he just wants to hop in an X-Wing and blow things up. Here's what he says at the funeral. He says, these days we don't talk about the Force that much. I don't know if it's gone out of fashion or if it's just harder to see around us. It was different for me growing up. We used to tell stories about the Force all the time. I'd like to tell you one now. I heard it from an old friend of my family, someone who understands the Force as well as anyone alive. She told me about an old Jedi she knew. One of the very last. He was as strong and as tough as any of them, and went out fighting the evil just like Lulo did. She was there when it happened, and she told me his body just vanished. Empty robes and a lightsaber. That was all that's left. She didn't get it, didn't understand, not until a long time later, when talking to her brother, he's a Jedi too, and he told her something he had learned from his master. We're not this, he says. We're not just flesh and bone, not just stuff. We're more. We're luminous. That's what he said. He poets down to the coffin, and he says, this coffin's empty. A lot of empty coffins in this business. That's how starfighter pilots go. 1 second we're here, the next we're just atoms drifting through the universe. We vanish, just like the old Jedi did. But that doesn't mean we're gone. Lulo was pretty much my uncle. He helped raise me since I was a kid. He was cranky, kind, strong, and one of the best pilots I've ever met. If he saw a way to help someone, he would take it. He never turned away from a fight, against the bad guys, no matter the odds. You want to talk about luminous? Lulo Lumpar was about as luminous as they come. This stuff might be gone, but he's not. I can still feel him. Right here, shining away. Right here, shining away. May the Force be with you, Lulo, and with all of us. This was an incredible, thoughtful speech from someone that truly, fully understands what happens and the consequences of the life and death situations that he's in. And he always still puts himself out in front of everyone to deal with those things. To write these articles and to say these things about this character, and for Rian Johnson to create such an out-of-character person in the movies is a disgrace. And I did a video before, and to take away someone that is such a great role model for boys growing up, to have one character that they could look up to and see as a shining example of someone that would give his life for his friends and was not selfish, was not villainous or treasonous, but was absolutely unselfish, very thoughtful, cared deeply about all of his friends, cared more about the resistance than anything else. To say all of these things is absolutely insane. The next scene, he's all by himself. He doesn't go to the wake to talk with everyone else. He's obviously struggling with this as himself. He puts on the strong front, very much like Leia. He learned from her. Leia, knowing he's like this, shows up to talk to him. She grounds him from flying and says he can't fly anymore until he figures out why she's grounding him. That he needs to work through his struggles with the issues that's going on. And she knows as well as anyone that a leader like Poe is, and she sees in him, isn't going to show. He's going to be strong for everyone else. He then ends up going out to the wake and seeing everybody. And a lot of the characters come up and talk to him and thank him and say, I was going to a very dark place, considering that we had lost a close friend, but you showed me, you told me that I need to trust and believe in the light and not go into that dark place. So thank you so much. See, this is the guy that everyone, when they're on the ship, why they look to him, why he was able to create a mutiny so quickly. Because they love this man. Because they've seen him. And they trust him. And they know he loves them just as much. It shows him sitting over looking down on everybody. And he begins to realize that he's fighting for so much more than just them. He's not just someone going out to fight, but he's a leader. He's someone that needs to inspire. And that's when he goes and talks to Leia, and he says it to Leia, and Leia goes, exactly. It's exactly what I meant. You're one of the rare people. This is from the comic 14, by the way, if you want to read it. Some of the Poe stuff's not the best, but there's some really good stuff. But this is from the comic number 14. And she says that I've seen this in you, and I needed you to understand that you're not just fighting for you. You're fighting for so much more. You're one of the rare people that can inspire people and understand that you're fighting for much more. Now again, Leia is saying this to him. Now if you think about it in that context, and now think about what he did on the ship, on the Radis, all of this is him fighting for everyone else. He cares about everyone else. He doesn't know the plan because Holdo refuses to tell him. Now, I'll say one more thing before I go into a metaphor to explain this a little bit deeper, in case you're not grasping or seeing it as Poe is, or how everyone else would see Poe in this situation, knowing everything that's gone on beforehand. As I also explained in what happened with The Force Awakens. None of this was his character in The Force Awakens. None of this was his character prior to The Force Awakens. Now, a day later, this is all of a sudden his character. That's just bad writing. Terrible, terrible writing. But Leia mentions that she's not going to be around too much longer. And she needs to know someone like Poe understands these things. And that's why she grounded him. Then she ungrounds him and sends him on more missions. So again, Leia is setting him up to be the leader. So when you just add in someone else to be the leader out of the blue for no reason, that's an issue. It doesn't make sense. There's a reason the people don't quite trust her. And because of that, if she's a good leader, she should understand that. And she shouldn't treat the one that everyone looks at as a leader like this. And he may be under her. But a good leader, there's only one reason not to tell those under you the plan. And that's you don't have enough time. But they clearly had enough time. Because the whole premise was, it was until they ran out of fuel, which, by the way, comic strip number 16, the only reason they had fuel is because he went on a crazy mission and was able to get the last bit of fuel that they were able to have. So if he didn't do that, they wouldn't even have enough fuel to survive any further. He got them the fuel that got them as far as they did. So again, he's the hero. And you don't think when he flew back with that tanker that everyone in the Resistance didn't understand that the only reason they're still alive right then was because he got them the fuel and because he shot down that dreadnought? Let's understand this stuff in context. Let's understand how everyone else views this. See, this is the thing everyone's failing to acknowledge or failing to understand, and this is why they're failing to see that Holdo is a terrible leader. Let's look at it this way. Holdo came in and nobody knows who she is. So let's pretend you're in your house with your family and your friends. And someone has placed this random person that you've never known as the head to decide what's going on. And there's some murderers outside. And they're trying to cut through your front door. Now it's guarded a bit. And so it's taking some time. And you're trying to come up with some plans. And so you clearly go to them and say, what's the plan? You're worried and caring about those that you love. That just makes sense, does it not? Now they say, I don't have to tell you anything. I was the one that was chosen to make the decision. Is this good leadership? Is this going to instill trust with everyone around? They don't know them. They know you. You've done some heroic things. Let's say that every time they go out with you, you're the one that runs into a burning house and pulls out the old lady or the baby. You're the one that talks down a suicide person that's about to jump off of a building. You're the one that when someone's trying to rob a bank, you run in there and you tackle the guy. Someone steals a purse from a lady, you chase them down and take. That's the person you are. You don't think everyone's going to look at you in a little bit better light than everyone else. So then someone comes to you and say, hey, I've got this idea. I think we can sneak out this back way and be able to get to my friend across the street. And when we get across the street, I'm going to tell him what's going on. And then that'll be able to get us free. We'll call the cops from over there. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Now, are you to blame? Or would you look at that guy and say, that's a terrible leader? That is toxic masculinity there. Or is that someone that cares about his family and his friends, has no other option, and someone came to him with a plan and they go, okay, yeah, it's better than nothing. I'm just sitting here. What else am I going to do? So then that goes out. And then you after a while, finally just freak out. They won't tell you the plan. You're like, what is the deal? They're about to break in. We're running out of time. You start kicking the table over. You're trying to get their attention, say, this is an issue. Would somebody say, oh my God, they're just acting out. Calm down. We're only about to die. It's no big deal. Don't freak out. Toxic masculinity. Or is that someone that's passionate and loves and cares for his people? You tell me from all the stuff I've been saying so far. Which one is it? Is it toxic masculinity? Or is it someone that loves and cares about the people? What is it? And then the person says, no, I'm not telling you. And then they tell someone to drag you away. If you watch the movie, as this part's happening, you see all the people around looking, and they're like, yeah. And she says, oh, the plan's going to be, we're going to hop out this window, and we're all going to sneak out this window and run across the street. And you go, what? They're right there. They're at the front door. They're going to see us. There's no way we'll get past them. That's logic. Everybody would be like, yeah, of course they'll be able to see us. They're right there. His argument makes perfect sense. Then after you're thrown out and shot and stun gunned and held down, and then they're walking out the window with you, they say, oh, you didn't know this, but they're blind in their left eye. All of the murderers are blind in their left eye, so they would never have been able to see us when they were walking out. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Why didn't she just say that? Why didn't she say it at least when I'm yelling about that's a terrible idea when it goes out the window? Because everyone around is thinking, yeah, where's the answer to that, lady? We don't know you, but our fearless leader that has given his life on many occasions, risked his life on many occasions, is always the leader and the hero, has shown his heart and care for everyone in this group. He's making some good points, lady. You've done nothing. You've told us nothing. We're just slowly being picked off here. And you're not going to then say why you're not going to do why you're taking the transports? Why can't you say, oh, they're blind in their left eye? Oh, okay, cool. All right, I'm down. Let's get everybody together. And now you've got the best leader on your side. What's good leadership? Is Holdo a good leader? No, she's not. She's not. It's just terrible. It's an absolute joke. To go through the movie, I've kind of went through the movie already, explaining Poe at the very beginning being the hero. The bomber pilots, they chose to continue on. Poe turned off his intercom to Leia. The bombers were already headed. When he's beginning to fly, he says, all right, bombers, come in now. Leia was saying, no, we didn't say anything about bombers. We didn't say. That was the plan from the beginning. But then, after Poe saves the day and everyone's able to fly away, Leia says, no. All right, let's back out of the plane. Let's back out of the plane. Everybody back. And he says, no, we've got to destroy this now. Which is true, because if he didn't, it would blow up everyone right afterwards. Then they blow it up and he gets demoted. Now, nothing's said about the fact that the bombers ignored it as well. They decided to continue following Poe. This is a trend. Everyone else follows Poe. At a certain point, you got to wonder, is he the leader? And is the other people, Holdo, not acknowledging his leadership, actually a failure to lead themselves? Then, as I said, he's demoted for no reason. He's demoted despite killing 215,000, the largest weapon they had. Not the largest ship, the Supremacy's larger, but the largest weapon they had that saved everyone. She's then demotes him, and after demoting him, it says it's not just about blowing things up. She then tells him to hop in an X-Wing and blow stuff up. And then Holdo holds these secrets. Rose is the one that come up with the idea. Rose is the one with Finn that decided to get DJ and bring him along. They were the ones that decided not to kind of hide the information that they're talking back and forth with the other Resistance member when they know DJ doesn't care about the Resistance. He said it himself. Don't join, that's his name. Is Poe the villain? Because I don't know how long this video is. It's probably long and I'm about to wrap it up. But I think everything I've said is Poe's a hero. He's the person that cares more than anyone else. He's the one that fights for his family. He's the one that if you're ever next to him in battle, he will do anything he can do to protect you. He will sacrifice himself. He will put himself in the middle of it so that other people don't have to do it. He'll put himself in front of the largest weapon the First Order has with his little bitty X-Wing, where even Hux is like, this guy's insane. Just so everyone else can be able to get away. He's a hero. He's not a villain. He's not even close. He's a great soldier. He's an incredible role model, and I hope, if nothing else, this video will be able to explain some stuff so that maybe some younger people growing up can begin to look and see Poe in a different light. Not the light everyone's trying to spin it as, like Nerdist, trying to say he's toxic masculinity and this is a bad thing. No, he's a hero. He's a hero. I would love to have a kid grow up and be anything like him. He's a hero. He doesn't have force. He's just a normal guy that will give his heart and soul to what matters. Thank you for listening for so long. I know it's been a really long video. I said I had a lot of notes. I looked at some of them and then I just kind of went on from off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I covered everything. As I said, I'll have those articles down below. I really enjoyed going through this. It made me respect and love Poe at a whole nother level. A lot of people commented some stuff about Poe in my Holdo video. My Holdo video was, again, more covering how terribly her character was written because she was in a novel and her character in the novel was completely different from the one in the movie. And that bothered me. And I didn't want to cover this toxic masculinity argument about, toxic masculinity versus feminism and all that stuff. I want to stay away from it, but I get Google notifications on articles written, and I kept getting these Nerdist articles that kept coming out, and it's a joke. And this is a high, fairly respected media company that covers nerd topics like Star Wars. And when they put this crap out, I finally had to respond. I'm sure some other people responded. I don't know. I don't really watch that many videos that are put out. But I hope this gave you a lot of information. I look forward to talking to you down below. Whether you disagree with me or not, as long as you're respectful, I will gladly talk with you. I will not be disabling my comments on this. And I think my commenters will also be respectful down there. So I look forward to hearing all y'all's thoughts. If I missed anything, please comment them down below. I'll put the video that I put, my Holdo video, right there, and I'll put my Luke, not our Luke video, and I'll put something else right there. I don't know. But the video's been long enough, guys. So again, thank you very much for watching. And never forget, you Nerferders, I love you.